So this is kind of the next level up in terms of difficulty. We've gone from 2 variables to 3. And really, there's nothing different here. There's a little more to it. You can see there's more rows, but we're going to follow the exact same processes. All right, so first what I've done is I've listed all the variables over here on the left side, and on the right side, I've rewritten the original statement, kind of broken it up into columns. So the first thing I have to do is I have to write out all the possible combinations of P, Q, and R. All right, well, first, they could all be true. All right, then let's see what else. I could have true, true, and false. And those are all the possibilities that start with 2 trues. Now, how about the possibilities that start with a true and a false? Well, I could have a true here, or I could have a false here. Okay, those are all the possibilities that start with true. So now, how about the ones that start with false? I could have false, true, true, false, true, false, 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 true, and false, false, false. That's almost as if the trickiest part of this whole thing, right? Is just making sure you got every option there. Now let's do the copying over, right? I've got to go to not P here, so I'm going to reverse the P values, right? I'm going to copy the P values over, but negate each one. So I'm going to have false, 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 true, 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 true. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the Q's, right? I'm going to do the opposite of the Q column. So this will be false, false, true, true, false, false, true, true. And then this is just straight up R, no negation here. So I'll copy the R's over. True, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. All right, now I get to the filling in. I have an and here. This is where it really kind of pays to think about this the way I said I think about this on the last lecture, right? An and only gets a T if both of the 2 inputs are T's. So I'm looking down my columns here. The only columns that have a T on both sides, the only row that has a T on both sides, is this one, or these 2. Those 2 get T's. Everything else gets an F. See why I like to think about it this way? You have to make this one decision, and then it's just F's everywhere. Okay, so now we have simplified these parentheses, right? These parentheses are now down to just 1 column, so I don't need these anymore. You can leave them in there if you like. I like to just kind of unclutter it here a little bit. So now I'm going to do this or here in the middle. And to do the or, I'm going to look at this column and this column. Right? And again, I'm using this process, right? Or is only false when both of the 2 inputs are false. So I'm looking, where are the rows that have 2 F's? This one, and this one. Everything else gets a true. And this is my final result. That tells me when this statement is true and when it's false based on all the possible inputs. And at this point, this may be starting to feel a little abstract, right? There are applications to this, and we are going to talk about some when we get a little further into this. I have literally used these concepts to solve problems in software development. Right, so we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Okay, so let me give you one here if you like, right? You can pause this, see if you can work this one out, start it back up, and we'll do it together. All right, so again, I'm going to write out all of my combinations. And there's a pattern to these. The first one, 4 trues, 4 falses. The Q's go in groups of 2. 2 trues, 2 falses, 2 trues, 2 falses, and the R's go in groups of 1, if you will. They alternate. There you go. All right, now let's fill in. The P column here stays the same. The not Q column reverses the Q's, and the R column stays the same. It just strictly alternates, starting with true. Okay, now parentheses come first. So first I have to do this, or, remember how I think about this, false and false will give me a false result. So these two are false, everything else is true. Now you can do a little cleanup if you like. We don't need these anymore. We've simplified the parentheses down to just this column. Okay, so now what comes next? Next I'm going to do this negation, right? This is the negation of the parentheses. Well, the parentheses is this column here. So I'm just going to reverse every one of these symbols. False, 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 true, true, false, false. And again, now that I've done this, I don't need this one anymore. And if you like, just to make it clear, you can kind of fill these in. Just to make it clear, we did do those rows, right? When they start to get bigger like this, you can maybe get a little confused and think, well, did I do that or not? Well, just shade them in a little bit, right? That'll help to organize that for you. Okay, now all I have left is this final OR, and that is going to be based on the 2 remaining rows. Again, false and false with an OR give me false. There we go. Everything else is true. And that's it. Whoa, that one got messy. Sorry. There's my final result. Okay, so what's next? Well, there are 2 special kinds of truth tables, 2 special results. One's called a tautology. The other is called a contradiction. Right? And those are what we're going to look at in the next lecture.